Centuries ago, in the sprawling heart of what would one day be known as the Verdant Imperium, Emperor Kellen the Foresighted embarked on a project so monumental, so utterly counterintuitive to the established wisdom of his age, that it was met not with awe, but with a tidal wave of derision. His gift, as he termed it, was not a trove of gold, not a conquering army, nor even a vast expansion of arable land for his burgeoning populace. Instead, Kellen dedicated nearly a quarter of the empire's non-urbanized territory to what he called the Mandate of Verdant Harmony, a complex, interlocking system of forest preservation zones, meticulously engineered subterranean aquifers, and vast seemingly unproductive wetlands interconnected by a network of bio-engineered water filtration systems. These were not lands to be tilled, mined, or built upon, but protected spaces, their purpose veiled in Kellen's cryptic pronouncements about the breadth of the future and the deep roots of resilience. At a time when imperial power was measured by immediate wealth, demonstrable military might, and ever-expanding agricultural output, Kellen's gift was seen as nothing short of an eccentric, crippling folly, a monument to an aging ruler's detachment from reality. The immediate reaction was swift and brutally dismissive. The empire's influential landed nobility, whose power and wealth derived directly from exploiting vast estates for timber, mineral extraction, and intensive farming, viewed the mandate as a direct assault on their economic interests. They saw vast tracts of potentially lucrative land being locked away, declared sacred or ecologically vital, thereby diminishing their potential for expansion and profit. Whispers of Kellen's folly began in the gilded halls, quickly escalating into public denouncements. Lord Valerius, a prominent voice among the aristocracy, famously declared, "While our neighbors build granaries of plenty, Emperor Kellen builds swamps and whispers to trees. Our children will eat his green dreams, perhaps." This sentiment was echoed by a significant portion of the merchant class, who saw no immediate commercial value but untouched wilderness and complex water systems that offered no clear path to trade or industry. Their focus was on efficient resource extraction and rapid commerce, neither of which seemed to align with Kellen's long-term, abstract vision. The common populace, meanwhile, grappled with a mixture of confusion and resentment. Generations had been taught to view prosperity through the lens of tangible assets, fertile fields yielding abundant harvests, accessible forests providing wood for fuel and construction, and rivers offering direct routes for transport and fishing. Kellen's mandate, with its emphasis on balance and long-term ecological health, seemed to offer them nothing concrete. Many had hoped for land reforms, tax breaks, or investments in infrastructure that would immediately improve their daily lives. Instead, they received decrees about preserving distant forests and protecting obscure water sources, which, from their perspective, only limited access to vital resources and offered no discernible benefit. Farmers saw traditional grazing lands designated as protected zones. Lumberjacks found their access to forests restricted. The popular mood soured, fueled by the aristocracy's vocal criticism and the tangible lack of immediate reward. Ballads were sung in taverns, mocking Kellen's green empire and questioning his sanity. Historians of the era estimate that nearly 70 to 80% of the populace, from the highest echelons to the humblest peasant, initially regarded the mandate of Verdant Harmony with either active disdain or a profound indifference, seeing it as a costly, bewildering waste of imperial resources and potential. The sheer scale of the investment massive labor forces diverted to constructing and maintaining the intricate water systems significant portions of the imperial budget allocated to monitoring and research seemed to yield no discernible return, further fueling public skepticism and economic anxieties. The first few generations following Emperor Kellen's reign watched with a mixture of detached curiosity and continued skepticism as the mandate slowly began to manifest its subtle impact. For decades, the designated harmonious zones remained largely untouched, seen as quaint relics of a past emperor's eccentricities. Successive rulers, less visionary than Kellen, often considered dismantling parts of the mandate to exploit its underlying resources, but the sheer complexity of its interwoven systems and the lingering fear of Kellen's almost mythical pronouncements stayed their hand. The scholars and engineers of the day, steeped in classical mechanics and direct resource management, struggled to fully comprehend the sophisticated ecological principles underpinning Kellen's designs. They could chart the flow of water through the constructed aquifers and filtration systems, but the concept of intentionally preserving vast, economically unproductive ecosystems for their intrinsic and future value was alien to their utilitarian mindset. Maps of the empire depicted the mandate zones as largely blank, undeveloped areas, symbols of untapped potential rather than realized value. It was not until the fourth generation after Kellen, roughly a century following his death, that the first tremors of a profound revaluation began to ripple through the verdant Imperium. A series of devastating, prolonged droughts gripped the neighboring kingdoms, and even parts of the Imperium were covered by the mandate. Rivers dwindled to trickles, harvests failed catastrophically, and once fertile plains turned to dust bowls. Famine and resource wars became rampant, threatening to destabilize the entire region. Yet, within the protected zones of the mandate, a curious anomaly persisted. The intricately designed aquifers continued to recharge, the wetlands filtered and retained water, and the preserved forests, with their deep root systems, mitigated soil erosion and maintained localized microclimates that, while not entirely immune, were significantly more resilient to the climatic shifts. Crops in proximity to these zones, fed by carefully managed runoff or strategically placed wells, tapping into the restored water tables, yielded surprisingly robust harvests. The initial understanding was purely pragmatic. Faced with widespread suffering, desperate communities began to look towards these once scorned areas not with ridicule, but with a dawning sense of hope. Engineers and water managers, initially tasked with emergency relief, started to meticulously study the workings of Kellen's water systems. They discovered that the seemingly unproductive wetlands were, in fact, incredibly efficient natural filtration systems, purify water far more effectively and sustainably than any contemporary technology. The preserved forests, once seen as mere timber reserves, revealed themselves as crucial regulators of rainfall patterns, carbon sinks, and biodiversity hotspots, harboring species that proved invaluable for pest control in agriculture or as sources for new medicines. What had been dismissed as a collection of disjointed, costly endeavors gradually coalesced into a single, cohesive, self-sustaining ecological engine. The shift in perception was revolutionary. The Emperor's folly began to transform into Kellen's wisdom. Scholars delved back into Kellen's original edicts and fragmented philosophical texts, deciphering his poetic, often enigmatic language. They found not merely instructions for building infrastructure, but a profound philosophy of interconnectedness, of living in balance with nature, and of prioritizing long-term ecological and societal health over immediate gratification. The concept of the breath of the future now resonated with the tangible relief of plentiful water during drought, and the deep roots of resilience manifested in communities that weathered environmental crises far better than their less prepared neighbors. This belated understanding was catalyzed by dire necessity, but once recognized, its value became irrefutable. The enduring legacy of Kellen's gift grew exponentially with each passing generation. The original mandate zones became revered institutions, not just for their practical benefits, but as living testaments to foresight. New laws were enacted to protect and expand them, and Kellen's philosophy became a cornerstone of imperial education, teaching children the principles of sustainable living and ecological stewardship. Entire cities developed around the concept of harmonious integration with the mandate's principles, designing infrastructure to work with natural systems rather than against them. The empire, once teetering on the brink of environmental collapse like its neighbors, entered an unprecedented era of stability and sustained prosperity, powered not by rapacious resource consumption, but by prudent management and ecological respect. The lessons learned were profound, that true wealth often lies not in what can be immediately exploited, but in what can be preserved and nurtured for the long haul. That wisdom sometimes appears as folly to the short-sighted, and that the greatest gifts are often those whose true value is revealed only through the patient crucible of time and the unfolding tapestry of generations. The very name of the empire, the Verdant Imperium, once a mere descriptive title, now carried the weight of Kellen's profound and ultimately vindicated vision, a living testament to a gift once scorned, now revered as the very bedrock of their civilization.